we're jumping over to talk about the DCU because James Gunn has been talking about, well, ever since he took over the job of being the guy running DC and DC Studios specifically, he's been talking about the bigger picture at hand, which is essentially the continuity. People want to know one thing about it. He's made, ever since last fall when he took over around this time last year, there's been some conflicting reports, but obviously what he said at one point, it's going to change as the universe evolves. He couldn't tell us that The Flash doesn't matter before it came out. It's not going to lead to anything because, again, there was a Flash movie coming out. Exactly. So now he's changed his tune on the continuity. Mitch, how did he clear this up for people?
I mean, personally, for me, I thought it was a really simple, clear the air. Going, everything before Creature Commandos isn't canon.
Right.
Everything after Creature Commandos is canon.
Right.
I genuinely don't know how much simpler someone can say that sentence on what he's meaning.
The only thing
apparently he needs to.
The only thing we're getting, and this is everywhere, and they need to clear this up, and I think in production, eventually they will, or maybe he will soon. It's like, if you're telling us that Peacemaker Season 2 and Waller are continuing off with where they left off, you can't have it be part of the new world. It's a part of the old one. But again, we don't know. Like, for all we know, it's like Peacemaker Season 2 will be a fresh reboot. Because it doesn't make sense that he's gonna be the same character from the same universe. Because that literally doesn't make sense then. So,
but as he said, right, because he also goes on a bit more, is events can, and this is purely, he's saying this for Peacemaker. He wants you to watch Peacemaker Season 1 and think of it as the DCU. Events happen the same. Events can have happened the same from the DCEU to the CU, but then one's not canon to the other. So he can come out here with Superman and be like, "Hey, my dad died in a tornado." He's not talking about Man of Steel, but the same thing happened.
Right.
He's the Peacemaker. He's trying to fudge it in there. Obviously, you got the bit at the end.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be like Peacemaker Season 1 happened in its entirety, bar the last bit with Justice League.
Yeah.
It's like the same thing with
you watch. You'll have a recap at the start of Season 2 for Season 1. That will be not in there.
Yeah.
Or if he is doing it that way, he can quite easily just do the thing where Peacemaker's the only one that remembers.
Yeah.
Out of all characters, why does Peacemaker remember? Hey, it's funny.
Probably do that and have fun with John Cena hamming it up.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Or there's the third option, which is a case of Season 1 just doesn't happen. Just ignore Season 1. Season 2 is the Season 1.
Remember the original Evil Dead 1 to Evil Dead 2? Evil Dead 2 is a remake of the first film because Raimi and the studio didn't have the rights to the first one. So they just remade it and called it Evil Dead 2. Yeah. So you could technically...
Or look at the Halloween.
Yeah, honestly, just do the meta thing. I'm completely down for that. Redo Season 1 from a new angle. Just it's Season 2, but it's Season 1. What of it? All right. It's...
Well, as people, just... I don't understand how people are getting confused with that. This actor's playing the same character. Therefore, they must be canon before.
I don't get. That's...
No,
that's fine. The actor can play a same or different. It's fine.
Yeah. J.K. Simmons in the MCU trilogy is not J.K. Simmons in the Raimi trilogy.
Exactly.
It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Look at it from that angle. If you're just outright going, no, it's still canon, you are being purposely obtuse and trying to make it more complicated than it is.
Yeah, they just need to hopefully have this explained simply and get it out the way and then get to it. And the other thing is, Creature Commandos, he talked about it, and he confirmed that Rick Flag Sr. is the father to Rick Flag, who we saw in The Suicide Squad. So obviously then Creature Commandos is a prequel by some time? Because it would have to be?
Well, it depends if Rick Flag is in the DCU.
It's true, I guess. Sure. Exactly. So,
I think the only way he could have really made it simpler if he just outright didn't reference anything.
Yeah.
from like if he just didn't even use any like Suicide Squad characters.
Right, right.
He was obviously going to use Peacemaker again, so he kind of has to. But yeah, it doesn't matter. Just go forward.
Yeah, just go with it and see how it rolls out.
You watch. You won't even do a Justice League. He'll do a Crisis and then start again. It'll just do what Marvel's doing with Deadpool. It's like, cool, this is all a thing. Now we're going to smash it together and go forward. Go full clean.
Yeah. Honestly, pretty good. I'm excited to see like how they're just going to tackle this whole bigger picture, because like I genuinely want to know how it's all going to connect to one another. And this whole canon thing, they got a couple years to work it out, right? And it's going to be honestly simple in my opinion. Like Daredevil in the MCU, right? He shows up in She-Hulk. Same with Kingpin. He shows up in Hawkeye. They never directly reference all these things that happen, but the little cues are there, and then the flashbacks and just the same mannerisms are there. So you're like, you could essentially do the same thing, but you know.
Yeah, it's a reboot, but not.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, all the things you liked happened. All the things you didn't like didn't happen. Defenders didn't happen. If it did, it was slightly different.
Yeah, exactly. So
if the story calls for it to be referenced or called upon, we'll talk about it.
Right.
But right now, don't worry about it.
Yeah. Like, also, imagine Peacemaker, season 1 happens, but that last scene, he's trying to convince people, like, no, I totally hung out with the Justice League. And they're like, I'm sorry, but you got really high and you imagined that because this is who Superman is.
You could so easily retcon it and just be
exactly.
like, no, you were actually on some stuff right there and then. That didn't happen.
That's what I would do for that final scene. Because everything else would fit into a new universe besides that. So I would just be like, yeah, it's just this thing doesn't work. And he was really tripping, and that's it. All right.
It's like, oh, by the way, John Cena Peacemaker, those bugs gave off like really high levels of ammonia. You were just off your tits.
It would be perfect, so.
Yeah. That's why you saw Ezra Miller. Ezra Miller was currently in Flash. You had a really bad nightmare.
The last thing Peacemaker saw was Ezra Miller attacking Hawaii, right?
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
That's all they could say. He's like, I remember Ezra.
And that's why they were all like shadowed out at the end of Peacemaker. Because he's just really high.
Yeah,
done.
Perfect story.
There's so many things you can do. People get hung up and being like, oh, but why? It's like, no, just have like an ounce of a thought for half a second and you might come to a conclusion how they can
just
do it.
Write it
simply. Obviously, no one knows exactly what he's going to do. But just stop and think.
Well, hopefully they clear it up for everybody soon-ish. We'll see with Creature Commandos and then Legacy in a year and a half from now. So,
I mean, let's be honest. He's going to come out here with Superman, explain everything, and then people are still going to complain.
Oh, yes, of course.
No one's going to be happy with it.
It's true.
No one wants to be happy with it. It's as simple as that.